Hello, my name is Lamerck, and welcome to the Naval Sports League. For our first-time watchers, the Naval Sports League, or NSL, is the ultimate naval competition in the game of Holdfast Nations at War. League battles are simple. Two teams, each led by a single admiral, pilot 5 large capital ships and 2 small support boats with the goal of sinking as many capital ships as they can within 35 minutes. Whoever sinks the most wins, and if there's a tie, we decide the winner by overall score. Teams consist of anywhere between 20 to 40 players, and the league provides mercenaries to balance out any number disparities between the teams. Every player in the league, be they a team player or mercenary, is competing hard for end-of-season awards and accolades. Every battle will take place on a randomly chosen map with randomly chosen wind direction. Both of these factors mean that no two battles will ever be the same. The league lasts for 9 months, from late February to November, with 3 to 4 games a month for you to enjoy. Once that main season is over, the top 3 teams of the league will duke it out to determine who wins the champion's crown. The NSL is a collection of Holdfast's most talented admirals, officers, and crews, and the tactical gameplay you'll see here is at a higher level than anything else this game has to offer. Today, I will be here with you for the entire battle to help you understand the decisions and strategies you will see play out in the NSL Coliseum. So, without further ado, let's get into this. My name is Lamerck. I am your only host today. You may see on the screen sometimes that we were hoping to get AGS Harper. He was going to be my surprise special guest this week. As some of you may know, AGS has a exciting naval expansion planned for Holdfast by the end of this year. We were going to talk to Harper today a little bit about that show, a little bit of the teaser for that, and get into it. Unfortunately, horrible inclement weather has prevented Harper from being able to join us today. His internet is just cutting out constantly. We tried our best to get him on here, but we just couldn't do it. So it'll be me solo today. That said, we have a lot to talk about with this week's battle, so let's just get right into it with the league standings. As you can see, we have Leviathans, Krakens, SCP-38s, Royal Black Fleet, Jackals, Marines. The two teams we'll be watching today, well, we have the SCP-38s versus the Jackals. Let's first, before that, go to the player leaderboard and take a look at if there's been any movement. And what you'll see is not a tremendous amount of movement, but we do have, and I'm going to say this name, I'm going to say it, okay? Because we all thought it was Bobby, but it's BB Bobby 123. BB Bobby 123. I've been saying Bobby for the whole season. Everybody's been saying Bobby for the whole season. I'm not going to apologize for it, but I'm calling him Bobby from now on. That's obviously what he wanted. Anyway, he's knocked his way back up on the leaderboard, joined, of course, by the venerable Spicy Paper, Scorgan, Shadow, and Dan Frank. Absolute powerhouse players, some of the best in the league, and I'm sure you will see plenty of them today competing their hearts out to keep their dominant place on the leaderboard. Switching up, let's go to the side-by-side. So, we have the SCP-38s versus the Jackals today. Muffin Top Scout is going to be admiraling for the SCP-38s, and we have Charney for the Jackals. The season record for the SCP-38s, 4-2, and for the Jackals, 2-6, as we saw in the league standings. Their all-time matchup does have a Jackals victory, though let's just say that that is from another time and another place, and today's battle is going to be very fresh. The top players to watch for the SCP-38s, Spicy Paper, Dan Frank, and Bobby123, B-Bobby123. On the Jackals, we have Ranger, Falazian, and Grezio. We're going to go with Grezio. The one to watch on the SCP-38 is Medkits. And on the Jackals, it's Boskigerald. I think I actually got that on the first try. All right, so at this point, normally I'd have a co-host. We talk about why we think one team is going to win. I'm going to be strongmanning both of these, okay? So for the SCP-38, we have seen a sort of, well, it is a pure coalition. It is the most successful coalition team in NSL history as far as I'm concerned. They have this dominant 4-2 record. Then if they win today, they will be tied with the Krakens in their win-loss record. And they will be also competitive with the Krakens in their points difference, which could, change things if there's a tie. So we could see the SCP-38 technically reach second place today on the league standings. Now, obviously, the Krakens have more battles to fight, so that's not going to be a permanent thing. They may jockey back and forth. The Krakens win another battle, then they're 6-2 instead of the 5-2 that both of them would be today if the SCP-38 win. The fact that this team has put so many powerhouse regiments and smaller groups together to create such a strong overall team is You can see it playing out in their league standings and on the leaderboard. Today could be the beginning of the SCP-38's. They're vaulting to the true top of the league standings, and possibly getting second place and maybe never letting go. That's not entirely up to them today, but their team is so good that I would be shocked if they lost today in this battle against. Now let's talk about the Jackals. Okay, the Jackals? Why would I say that the Jackals are likely to lose? Well, they are on the lower side of the league standings, but that does not mean they do not bring very specific dangers to this battle that could put them on top. Charney is a very good admiral. Both of these guys are very good admirals. Molotow's at the top of his game right now. Charney also, I think, is really getting into the concept of what the Jackals do best. And what they do best is they fight messy battles, they mess their opponents up, and then they take advantage of the chaos, especially with lots of boarding and lots of carpenter actions. Carpenters, the guys with the axes who are running around like crazy, chopping down masts on other people's ships. So that's what we're looking at when it comes to the Jackals. If the Jackals can make a mess out of this battle, that is the scenario in which they will thrive. But to see who's going to get the leg up in the beginning, we have to go to the map preview here. So, as you can see, we've got half of this map that has nothing in it, and then half of it that has islands. The SCP are in the islands, and they have the wind, which means the Jackals are going to struggle to get across this map and into the islands, into a place that they're going to like to start off with. Whereas the SCP-38s are going to be able to make their way out of the islands pretty quickly. This is, I think, not as bad for the Jackals as it may seem. The Jackals kind of like when their enemy gets very aggressive, because then again we can get to that chaos situation where the Jackals can lure the opponent somewhere where they can hit them from some unexpected angle, turn all their ships towards the enemy, and charge. For the Jackals, the issue with that strategy tends to be that even though they can cause chaos in the enemy ships, they aren't actually sinking enemy ships while they're doing it. They're killing their crew, they're chopping down masts, they're getting interesting things happening on the field, but they're not actually doing the win condition of this league, which is sinking the enemy's larger ships. So we have to see today if the Jackals are able to refine that strategy of just chopping down masts, causing chaos, disabling ships. And then also what they have to do is they have to destroy masts, stop ships, and then pull the battle somewhere else so that those disabled ships cannot follow. And then the Jackals can get some kind of numerical superiority over their enemies. The problem here for them today is the SCP-38s are not going to make that easy for them. They are on the top half of this leaderboard for a very, very, very good reason. And it is because they have a professional level of discipline with their battle formations. In the beginning of the SCP-38's history here in the NSL, they were considered a wild card team. Just crazy guys, very much like the Jackals. They are always talking about, they were always talking about like their own unorthodox strategies, or how they would hit an enemy from an unexpected place, or divide up their fleet, or do all that sort of stuff. They found that that was getting them mixed results at best. Ever since then, it seems that Muffin Top has transformed this team into a professionally disciplined NSL competitor, which, by the way, is what puts them in the same bracket as the Krakens and as the Leviathans. These are teams that know how to hold a fleet formation even under heavy pressure from the enemy. And because they can do that, they tend to keep order when things are going crazy. A ship sinks, that's okay. They have all their ships in place to capitalize on weaknesses in the enemy line and even up that ship sink. If an enemy charges them, they put so much damage into them before the enemy can reach them that it's basically a suicide charge, right? These fleet formation tactics and specialities is honestly what tends to separate that upper half of the bracket from the lower half of the bracket. The teams at the bottom, they haven't refined how to be both messier with their fleet formations and yet still as effective as the guys on the top at sinking ships. And that's, I think, what we're going to see today from the Jackals. If they want to win, they've got to find a way to take that chaos and turn it into their own alternative form of order. Whereas from the SCP, I think we're going to see a just tight fleet formation. They're going to use the gaps in the islands, and they're going to play a really strong hand to prevent the Jackals from getting to that crazy position, maybe even baiting the Jackals to do something where they charge through some of these gaps in the islands that we see on that map preview, and then the SCP can catch them as they come through. The predictability factor is really big because you kind of know what the Jackals are going to do. They're going to rush you. They're going to, if they can get close, They're going to try and charge your ships. They're going to try and get those axes out and cause havoc. If you know that ahead of time as the SCP-38, you can bait that and then slam them as they try to come in. And if you can do that, the Jackals may reach your ships. They may even disable multiple ships. But the thing that the axes of the Carpenters on the Jackals team cannot do is they cannot destroy cannons, right? So because they can't do that, they can't stop the firepower that the SCP can have. So if the SCP loses some ships to the Chaos, but they keep most of their fleet firing at the Jackals, we can still see, again, the chaos that the Jackals bring, but the SCP are able to repel and continuously fire upon the Jackals. However, there also is the chance the Jackals throw that playbook away. If they do that and the SCP-38 are counting on Jackals' hyper-aggression, that could be a way that the Jackals really flip the tables on the SCP. So it's these dynamics that we're keeping in mind as we go in. Let's take another kind of closer look at the map preview and talk a little bit about how the wind is going to affect these things. Right? So the SCP-38, as you can see, the wind direction is going northeast. Now, that is not good for the Jackals. It is good for the SCP. The SCP are going to be able to cross the distance. If they just went into a straight line from their spawn to the right, they would get there faster than if the Jackals went from their spawn straight to the left. That's all well and good. The Jackals, however, do have opportunities here because those big hill-shaped islands in the middle of the map preview. Because they kind of block a lot of the ability for the SCP to just choose their direction, right? Those funnels between those islands that you would have to go to cross over, they give the Jackals a little bit more of a cushion to maybe do something like going against the wind. So that would be being in the Jackals. Imagine yourself from the Jackals and you're facing those big pill-shaped islands. That would be going to the left. So that would be southeast. And it's possible that they could do something like that to try and what we call bank the wind. It would be extremely slow for them to do, and the SCP are not a team that you really want to be in bad wind for, but it's certainly possible. So we just, really, really, really want to make sure that when it comes down to what these guys are doing from their opening, that we watch to see if the Jackals go against the wind and what the SCP do, because the SCP will have to charge them to make the advantage out of that. The other alternative is that the Jackals, remember, again, thinking from their starting position, that they turn to the right, starboard, right? And they go with what we call neutral wind. That's where the wind is hitting them kind of from the side. So it's not actively in their face. It's not behind them, pushing them forwards, but it is hitting them to the side. If the Jackals do that, they're going to have a pretty comfortable approach. They're going to end up going towards the top of that map preview. And the SCP can meet them down there, or they can try and cross behind them, and they would cross behind them by just kind of going around the center and hooking up. We could talk a little bit more about this, and I could draw it on the screen a little bit when we get into the map itself. We're still waiting for all the teams to sort of load up and get ready, but we will be in the map soon. What I can say is if the Jackals do go to that neutral wind, they're going to have a lot better of a time in a defensive posture. What they will not be able to do from there is do what they like to do best and turn in towards the enemy and actually board the enemy with their ships, right? Because think about that. If you're the Jackals and you head to the top of the map, right? If you turn left from there, right? So let's say you're kind of halfway up to the top of the map from there. You turn left, that's dead into the wind. It's the worst wind possible for if you're trying to close the distance between two different ships. That's why I'm wondering if they don't turn left out of their spawn, go dead against the wind to start with, but as soon as the SCP get close, they whip around and they try to use what would then be neutral wind for themselves to hit the SCP-38s. So these are some of the options that I'm thinking about as we go in. We are moving into the map itself. So we're going to get our cameramen all set up and get everything ready for you so we can start this battle. And I'll talk a little bit more and maybe draw on the map to show you a little bit about what I was talking about previously. So, yeah, at SCP-38's going to be, of course, the British team today. They're going to be, I think it's the green ships for them, but we'll take a look when we get in. And the Jackals are going to be the French on the right side of your screen today. As we get in now, I will give you in the overhead camera and we'll play it by ear. All right. I'm very excited for this battle today. I think we have two teams that are really in a position to, again, make statements. I love victories that mean something in the larger scheme of the league. For the SCP-38, this is their foray into the danger zone for the Krakens and their competition for second place. So if they can get it, they win this. Then the Krakens must win their next game to keep their second place position. Whereas for the Jackals, to get to 3 and 6 would really start to push them up that lower bracket of the league and make things very, very dangerous for their opponents. I would love to see. I mean, I'm always rooting for the underdog here. So, the Jackals making a great play here and really winning this battle would be a very, very fine result as far as I'm concerned. But that is not always how it is. Teams that are highly placed in the league have that position for a reason, and it's because they tend to win. And so we're going to see if the SCP-38s and the Jackals can do it. So again, SCP-38s on the left side of your screen here on this overhead, they are in the green ship. So SCP-38, think green today. Jackals, you're thinking yellow. They're coming from the open. I'm hearing that I am wrong about this, that the SCP are yellow. That would mean that the SCP are in the open ocean. Can I get a check on that, Director? Because that's not what we had for our map preview. Either way. All right, so if that's the case, then take everything I just said and throw it in the trash, and we're going to start all together again. I'm going to wait for the triple confirmation that everything I just said was completely useless and wrong. And instead, we will talk about what this means if the Jackals are on the left side here and the SCP are on the right. All right, I am going to break out my crayon here. I'm going to be drawing all the screen. You see my crayon there? I love to draw. All right, so let's say that this team right here is the SCP. Let's say that we flubbed it and the SCP-38s are on this side. Remember, the wind is going this way. So, we have a restart. All right, let's just pretend that I didn't draw anything there, and we'll wait for the reset to happen. Let's see what it looks like. Okay. All right. So we're getting back in here. We'll get our cameras back up and we will be showing you the map again. All right. So again, the map preview, it may be wrong. I think it might be. We shall see. Okay. All right. So what I'm hearing is that the SCP are among the islands. So we can now go back and say everything I said was not a waste of time. That is the SCP on the left. So again, SCP is the green ship. Jackals is the yellow ship. SCP is on the left side of the overhead. Jackals on the right. So everything we were talking about in that pregame show, we're back to it. That was a little snafu we had there for a second. Had a little confusion. This is a big operation that we do here in the NSL. We talk a lot about the teams and the players, but it really does behoove us to take a second to really talk about the incredible amount of work that goes on behind the scenes. We have multiple directors, tons of cameramen, people who are always thinking about making sure that the rules and the map creating, and then we have the mercenary distribution system where we have dozens of mercenaries. I think we had somewhere upward close to 20 today. Those are players that are not on either of these teams that need to get sorted out to these different teams. We have the admirals that we have to talk to make sure their teams are on the right side of the battle and they know what they're doing and they get their information ahead of time. It's a big project and we're all very proud of it. And sometimes there are mistakes that happen. So I do apologize for that. But today, we are right where we said we were going to be with the SCP-38 on the left side of the screen, the Jackals on the right side of the screen. Again, I will draw on the overhead here. The wind is going to be going this way, right? So what does it mean? Maybe you're a first-time viewer. You don't know what wind does. What is wind? Okay. So if the wind is with you, you go fast in a direction. If you are going against the wind, you go slow in a direction. So anybody who is following this arrow in their trajectory, let's say they come here and they start going up this way, right? That is with the wind. These are parallel, which means that the wind will be at their backs. They can use their full sails and they will get maximum speed. All right. Now, let's say you go against that wind. You are somebody who, for some reason, like maybe let's say the Jackals today, let's say you turn this way. You are going to go against the wind. You can't use your square sails. You must use what we call the triangular sails. And you can see the triangular sails. That's all these guys, these triangle ones that you're seeing on these ships pop up. You're going to go very slow, and you're going to be going against the wind, and it can be very dangerous. But it is also a way to bank what we call banking the wind. Why? What is a banking the wind? Well, it's going against the wind to start off with, but then by the time your enemy gets there, you're so far against the wind that you could swing around and use the wind to your advantage while the enemy can't. That's banking the wind for later. It's like saving it up at the beginning by going against it so that you can unleash the speed of the wind at a point of your choosing later on. Let's talk about the openings here. All right, so the SCP on the left side are moving in this direction here. That is not a surprise for them. It's a good wind for them. The Jackals are seeming to go a little bit against the wind. Remembering that wind is this way, that means that the Jackals are maybe doing something like banking the wind. So how does this play out? Well, let's say that these guys end up going either here or here, down here, right? Either of these places that get them into this open ocean are now below the line that the Jackals are at, which means that the Jackals, when these guys turn in to fight the Jackals will be able to turn this way, and with the wind going like this, they're going to have neutral wind. They're going to have about 50% speed, okay? So that's good for the Jackals. This is a good opening for the Jackals. The question is, are the Jackals going to stick to it, or are they going to kind of break out of it? We see a lot of times a team will start by going against the wind and then get a little spooked, and they'll come back up this way. If the Jackals do something like that, okay. What we're seeing right now is the Jackals doing something that we call line abreast. A lot of times you see formations like what I'm circling here, which is to say a linear formation, a line from front to back. What the Jackals are doing is a line side to side. Very interesting. The question is, what are they going to do with that line abreast formation? Are they going to utilize it in a particular way in which, okay, so the reason that line abreast is so good is because not any one ship gets there first. Take a look at this line, right? This ship, this lead 8 gun of the SCP is going to get to the battle literally first before the ones behind it who are going to follow after it. It's like ducklings all in a row. Well, the first duckling is going to get shot and it's going to take a lot of damage. When you have line abreast, all the ducklings get there at the same time if they hit the enemy from the right angle. The Jackals are now seeming to retreat. So we've gotten a point where they kind of started down this way, and now they seem to be bouncing this way. This is an interesting formation because it gives them neutral wind. Okay, now they're going this way. That's 50% wind speed for them, and it's going to get them deep down here where the SCP may have to like give chase. And while they're giving chase, the Jackals may be able to swing around this way or swing around this way and catch the SCP mid-chase. We've got to see how the SCP responds. Right now, they're following just a sort of standard trajectory. The question is, what do they do when they get here? Do they turn down? Do they go across? What vector of attack are they thinking as they get to this point? That's going to tell us a lot about how this battle is going to play out because the Jackals right now are in retreat. I think it's a cool idea from the Jackals to just sort of, again, bank the wind. It is what they're doing. They're banking the wind. How will they turn out? Will they come out this way? Will they go out that way? We shall see soon enough. All right, so I am going to zoom in a little bit here on the overhead cam and try and get a little bit of a closer look at the phase or the area where the action is going to play out. And we shall see what these teams do. The first shot has been fired. It looks like it's either from a gunboat or the 13 gun of the SCP-38s, trying to gauge distance on how close they are to the Jackals. And the answer is not close enough to hit anything, but they're getting pretty close. Probably about a 50-meter distance out. Now, what the SCP could do here is they very much could create a situation in which they cut off the fleeing Jackals from the rear. They kind of cut across back through this, and they are able possibly to hit that rear ship of the line. We shall see. We shall see. But I'm sure we got a good perspective elsewhere so that we can see, what it is that these guys are going to be doing. And what the range is. It's all about the range here. Can the SCP catch that rear ship without going too hard against the wind? And the next question is, when are the Jackals going to turn around and make a fight out of this? That's the difference here. I think we're seeing it. If you're taking a look at the front ships of the line, they do seem to be turning to their right. Now they're going dead into the wind. This is a very dangerous moment for the Jackals because the next minute or so is going to be the worst wind possible for them. And the SCP do not have that bad of a wind. They are within range of that rearmost 8-gun. The 13 guns carronade, which is the front positioned cannon on the SCP-38's flagship, that has an extremely long range, the longest range of any cannon in the NSL. And what they're going to do with it is they're going to try and harass the rearmost 8-gun on the Jackals line, and they are doing so right now. Now, we're not going to see a lot of HP damage based off of this, and it does look like the Jackals are able to complete their turn, and they are looking like they are battle ready. What we're seeing from the Jackals right now is the professional fleet formation work that we see at the top level of this league. And if they can get these 8 guns into rotation right now and hit the SCP-38s, especially that 13 gun right off the bat, that is going to be a hell of a start for the Jackals. What they've done really well is they reserved their 13 gun. Okay, let's talk about what that means. That's this ship right here. That's their 13 guns, the heaviest, most important ship in their fleet. And you'll notice it's offset a little bit behind their line. What this is going to do is it's going to stop the enemy's 13 gun from getting real close, pulling up alongside and firing at the 13 gun. What's happening now is these 8 guns are going to be able to be in range of these 8 guns, but these 8 guns are also going to be in range of the 13 gun, which is very dangerous for the SCP-38 13 gun. This is not in danger. The 13 gun here is only in danger of being hit by one ship, and that's the enemy 13 gun. Whereas the SCP's 13 gun is in danger of being hit by every single ship in the Jackals fleet. A very dangerous moment if the Jackals do some coordinated fire on the SCP-13 gun. You're already seeing just the slight angling that you're seeing from this 13 gun shows that they are aware of the danger that they have got themselves in, and they're looking to pull it back here. That is a very good move from the SCP-38. Hopefully not too late. Hopefully it's not going to take a lot of damage. But if the Jackals know what they're doing here, and I really hope that they do, because this has not always been something that they're good at, they will fire every single possible cannon at that 13 gun right now. And we are starting to see that on the SCP-38's 13 gun, they are starting to lose a little bit of the HP on that ship. The Jackals 13 gun, untouched. Untouched right now. This is very, very good for the Jackals. Now, what's even better for the Jackals is the wind situation. Remember that the wind is going this way. The Jackals are going to curve around here, and guess what? They're going to get that wind. Whereas the SCP-38 are going to curve around this way, and what are they going to be? Directly against the wind. Horrible situation for the SCP-38 right now. The Jackals need to turn their fleet to the right, and they need to keep the pressure on that 13 gun. If they can do that, they will have a tremendous chance at victory here. Unfortunately, mid-game is a very difficult part for the Jackals. They do not... It's for a highly aggressive team, they are very, very cautious about really cranking hard turns like this and getting very close to the enemy. But this is the trajectory they need to be on right now. Not this wide trajectory here, because that allows the SCP-38s to complete this turn with minimum damage. Unfortunately, what's happening right now, as you can see, maybe on the top of the screen, is that the Jackal's rear 8-gun is getting absolutely hammered by the SCP-38s. Something that they could do right now is they could pull this ship out to one side or the other and have it fire at the front of the SCP-38's line. It would kind of pin down the SCP-38, who already seem to want to focus on. Unfortunately, this is a missed opportunity for the Jackals. A big-time missed opportunity. As we stand right now, the SCP-38 are almost dead in the wind. This is the wind direction. They are here. This is very bad wind for the SCP-38. Under no circumstances should the Jackals be this far away from their enemy. They should be somewhere around here. Okay? They have full wind right now. The fact that some of these guys do not have full sails at this moment is a, I think, critical blunder that they're going to really regret later on. This is a lot of passive play from a team that has traditionally been extremely aggressive. But what it shows is they may not have a full understanding of how to use a good wind when they get it. And that's a shame for them because they could be cutting behind the SCP-38 fleet. If you're the SCP-38 Admiral right now, you're a Muffin Top Scout, honestly, I'd be breathing a sigh of relief that the enemy did not strike when you were at your weakest, because their weakest moment is soon to be over. And you don't have long to strike at it. So, let's talk about what they can do from here on out. This circle can continue. We call this like a death spiral sometimes. Okay? That's where these teams rotate around each other. Remembering that the wind is going this way, at different points on this trajectory, you will find that one team has speed while the other one doesn't. Right now, the Jackals should have the speed. They are now almost directly, if you can see the orientation of their ships, they are almost directly with the wind. Frankly, they should be around here by now, cutting off the rear of the SCP fleet, hammering them from behind, causing this formation to scatter into the wind with decision paralysis as they get overwhelmed by shots in the rear. It's not happening, unfortunately. The Jackals have decided that they're going to just slowly go around this circle of death. But the reason it's called a circle of death or like a doom spiral is because usually somebody with the wind cuts behind you and hits you hard, and then you get the win later and you cut behind them and you hit them hard. That's not happening here. Instead, the Jackals are going to lose a war of attrition with a team that is still, even to this moment, in a position of weakness. Positionally and with the wind direction, they are in a position of weakness. And it's a shame. But it doesn't mean that the Jackals are out. They have lost a ship. They are down one ship, but that is not the game, because the ship that they lost is not the 13 gun, and where there is a 13 gun, there is hope. So now we have to see how and if this death spiral continues to turn. What it's looking like right now is that the Jackals are making a stand here. The SCP understand that they need to get past this bad wind as soon as possible, and I think we're going to see them whip around behind. A professional level admiral like Muffin Top is looking to do what all admirals are always looking to do. Increase the amount of time that you can fire at the enemy and decrease the amount of time that they can fire on you. That's why crossing the T, this concept of cutting behind or cutting in front of an enemy, is so important, because there are no cannons facing off the back and no cannons facing off the front of most of these ships. So if you get a ship there, you can fire into the enemy and they cannot return fire to you. That is the ideal goal of every admiral in every situation. It is get the enemy in a position where you can hit them and they can't hit you. The SCP seem to have a bit of an expeditionary force coming out front here, and I'm very much hoping that it causes chaos, and it seems to be, as some of these ships break off. The question is, what do the Jackals do with these front two ships? And the answer is, I don't honestly know. They don't seem to be turning into the battle. I'm always quick to criticize admirals who spend most of their time running for position, but not using the positions that they win from the running. And what I'm seeing from the Jackals today is they're doing a lot of running, and it's like, okay, you go to a position, you run to a position, fine, you sacrifice a little bit of ship HP, maybe you even lose a whole ship, but the goal of the running needs to be to get you to a position where then you have an overwhelming advantage over your opponent. That does not seem to be what the Jackals are doing. They're running to run. But the problem is, as soon as the SCP turn to follow them, where are they going to be? They're going to be fully with the wind. So if these guys chose this direction and they chase, where do the Jackals go from there? They can only turn this way or turn this way. As they do that, as they pick a side this way or this way, the SCP-38s are going to be able to just come in a straight line and just choose whichever attack direction they want. At this point, I believe that with a strong offensive push from the SCP-38, the Jackals will be pinned against the wall, one side or the other. That would be a terrible place for the Jackals. They do not do well. And by the way, not only do they not do well, nobody does well against the wall. But remember, the wind is this way. So if they get pinned against the wall, they cannot do their tried and true classic strategy of turn towards the enemy and charge them, because they would be charging directly against the wind. This is the place that is the worst for the Jackals. This is a place where they get pinned against a wall and then they never leave. What we're seeing is that the Jackals have chosen this direction. The SCP are already heading this way. This is going to be the scene of our battle right around here, folks. It is not looking good for the Jackals. Not looking good at all. But let's see how it plays out here in the NSL Coliseum. And the NSL Coliseum may have a lot to say about how this battle plays out. Its walls and its islands may be a deciding factor for how this battle gets close. With only 10 minutes past, thereabouts, 15 minutes past, we have 20 minutes left. Plenty of time for these two fleets to connect and start slamming into each other. The wind advantage is still with the SCP-38s. I'm sorry, not the Jackals. The Jackals have the worst of it. So, again, we are always going to keep in mind on the screen where this wind is, and it is coming in this direction right now. Okay? So, the Jackals, think about this. This is their wind right now. Okay? The SCP down here, this is their wind right now. It's great wind for cutting off the front of the Jackals fleet, and it seems to be exactly what they're doing. So, SCP, kudos. And these two ships, these two 8-guns, they can be ballsy. They can be aggressive. The Jackals have already lost one of their 8-guns. If the SCP lose an 8-gun, that just ties them up. But if they, in doing so, losing that 8-gun to aggressive action, if they pin the Jackals against this wall, there is a back of the fleet that can cut around behind the Jackals and slam them from the rear. This could be the closing of the trap from the SCP-38s, and it's kind of looking like that might be exactly what happens. If the Jackals let themselves get caught in this, they have only themselves to blame, because halfway through this battle, they had a situation in which they could have done something very similarly aggressive to the SCP, and they chose not to. Let's see how it plays out, folks. This is the exciting part of the battle. As I predicted, you can see these two ships here. They're thinking of crossing behind. So they've got a flanking force in the front. They've got a flanking force in the rear. And you're going to see the cage close around the Jackals. If the Jackals go too deep here, there's this little corner back here they're not going to be able to escape from. It will be very, very bad. And this will get very bloody very, very quickly. If I'm the SCP-38, I want these guys to be a little bit more about chasing the rear here, and you can see the ship is starting to turn a little bit to the left. They've really got to head this way and then bounce out. And we're going to see, I think, the flagships especially do that. They've got good wind for it. So, here's what you're going to see now from the Jackals. This ship right here, he's flirting with the idea. He's going to go here. He's definitely going to do what the Jackals always do in these situations. When they're in a losing situation, they start getting really aggressive. Jackals, if you're listening, you can't start getting aggressive when you're losing. You have to do it as a condition for victory. It can't be your last-ditch effort. The Jackals have the best ability of any fleet in this game to get aggressive and close. It's got to be a foundational part of your strategy. It can't be your go-to when things start getting hairy, but it is what their go-to right now. As you can see, this guy is thinking about getting very close to this ship. If they don't just sit there and just trade broadsides viciously, then they certainly are going to try and board. What we're going to see here is the trap starting to close. I'm a little worried about how far these two ships are away from the enemy. Remember, this ship back here, not the goal. This ship is the one that needs to be sunk. And the Jackals are doing a very good job of keeping 8-guns on one side and 8-guns in the other of it. It's time now for the SCP to close the trap and hit the enemy fleet hard. Let's see if they can make it happen, or if this ends up being something more along the lines of a messy endgame, because a messy endgame, with the ships tied up as it is, whoa, the Jackals can make something out of that. We have seen that the SCP-38's lead 8-gun, I believe that's this guy right here, he is sunk. So now the trap closing is only 2 ships on this side. The issue here for the SCP is if the Jackals do a full fleet charge here, they could really rain damage on these 2 8-guns and leave the closing of this trap behind. The ability to surround an enemy and hit them from 2 sides is conditional on timing, and proximity. You have to be willing to put your ships really close to the enemy, and then only when everything is very close on both sides to trap the enemy in your claws. Right now, I honestly do not know whether or not the SCP can make the best of this. Right now, these fleets are effectively tied. It's kind of crazy, but right now these fleets are tied. We do have probably a boarding action between two of these eight guns. If you get a chance to look at that, that would be really exciting, I'm sure. And so what you'll see there is, of course, the chaos that the Jackals are so famous for. But there's no way that the SCP is not going to fight back. They do love to fight. They love to fight hard. So we will see. The traps does seem to have closed, and I'll tell you why. It is because the Jackals fleet is stationary, and they're in a line. What's happening here is we've got two ships firing at the rear of this line, and we've got one ship firing at the front of it, and then we've got two ships here. They're tangled up. Right now, this is essentially 3v3, but the positioning is absolutely going to the SCP. The Jackals flagship, where is it firing? What's it hitting? It doesn't look like it's firing or hitting at anything. Huge issue here. Huge problem here. Because if this flagship cannot get into the battle ASAP, and I mean ASAP, we're going to find a situation in which the Jackals flagship turned its cannons into rotation and all the rest of its ships are sunk. Let's see how it goes. This is the moment to watch here. This is when everything comes together. All right, we are seeing the Jackals flagship going down any minute now. It has been absolutely hammered. It is on its last leg. It has done no fire for these last 2 minutes. And unfortunately, that is going to be all she wrote for it. It was pinned up against the wall. The SCP did what it wanted, which is it got the Jackals to the wall, it caused confusion, and there you go. They sunk the flagship. Once the flagship is sunk, you have got to have a humongous positional advantage over the team and the ability to strike at their flagship ASAP. If you can't do that, you are on a path to losing. This is unfortunately the repetitive story of Jackals defeats. They find themselves in situations, they don't necessarily take advantage of those situations. They make a kind of not great move from an Admiralty's perspective of hitting an enemy when the wind is in their advantage. Then things get messy towards the end of the game. They do great in the messiness, except they don't do great at shooting their cannons at the enemy flagship or any ship enough to sink it. Now we have what is essentially a disabled 8-gun on the Jackals team, and 2 8-guns that are in the middle of a complete envelopment by the SCP. The SCP right now are breathing a sigh of relief. The worst part for them is over, and this battle is all but decided at this point. The question is, what are these 8-guns going to do? Are they going to be able to sink more 8-guns on the SCP team? It's certainly possible. But no matter what happens, they are beat the hell up. The Jackals have one good 8-gun, one strong 8-gun. They have almost no rocket boats or gunboats left. A part of the story we really haven't been able to tell because of our focus on this fleet battle, which has been great and positionally very interesting. But all right, there's an 8-gun down. In short order, another 8-gun is going to be down. It's very likely the D-massed 8-gun that is at its weakest right now, whereas the remaining kind of intact 8-gun on the Jackals team is just doing what it can. Doing what it can. This is a convincing, not like complete victory for the SCP-38, but it is a very convincing victory. And you can tell because their 13-gun is very safe. There was really only one point where the SCP-38's 13-gun could possibly have been threatened, and it simply was not. This is a story of a missed opportunity for the Jackals. I believe that at the midpoint of this game, they could have absolutely won this, and I am shocked to say it because I really do respect SCP-38's abilities here. The SCP-38 let them get themselves into a very dangerous win position, and it is shocking to me that the Jackals did not prey upon them in that moment. We are seeing a sort of lack of awareness on the Jackals team about when an opportunity presents itself. As it stands now, all that is going to happen to this ship is it is either going to run for 10 minutes or it is going to stand and fight do its best. It's a hard thing. We've seen teams like last week. We saw that at the end of the battle, as the defeated team decided like this battle's over, they just ran with their ships. This week, I think that the Jackals are going to have a sort of glorious end here. They're going to go down fighting, which is respectable. But it's not going to change the course of this battle, unfortunately. And it will be the SCP-38s who take it, with probably 3 ships remaining. So at this point, folks, I think you're going to get a really great sight of some of the smaller dramas that are happening all over the battlefield. Because remember, every one of these ships is manned by full crews. These guys, we talk about the fleets and the commanders and the captains, but every single individual in this battle is fighting his own personal battle in the rowboats, on the 8 guns, in the gunboats, every man for himself, doing the best that he can to bring points and kills and cannon destruction and furniture destruction on these ships to his team and eke out a victory. Let's see how their stories play out. We do have some demassing action that was happening from a boarding party. It's allowing this last 8 gun on the Jackals team to not have to fight too many enemies all at once. 8 minutes and 37 seconds left. There is a possibility that this guy could go all the way. The question is, as the SCP's gunboats and rocket boats close in on him, can he keep his cool? Can he keep his fire focus on the enemy? Can he sink an 8 gun? And here we have it, folks. This last 8 gun fighting for its life. It doesn't have too many guys against it right now, but these rocket boats and gunboats behind it are getting perilously close. It is going to start taking some serious damage. Wow. Look at that. Long-range fire from a completely demasted SCP-8 gun. The SCPs have gotten it rough today. They're going to win, but they've had a rough time of it. As soon as their 13 gun gets into range and rotation, though, it's going to be all she wrote. Whoa! Captain Random Billy going crazy on a boarding action over there. It looks like 4 kills or more with a bayonet. We are seeing some serious action out here today, folks. And they got him. 1 more kill for Billy, and then he got taken down. Good on you, Billy. Yeah, little friendly fire going on there. That tends to happen. All right, so here we go. With the Jackals, 8 gun still has half of its HP. The question is, what kind of 8 gun cannons does it have left? Does it have the ability to return fire, or is it going to do what the Jackals do best and send itself flying at an enemy ship to get a last glorious boarding action? And as it does so, are the SCPs going to put it out of its misery? We shall see, folks. We shall see. Withering fire from this rocket boat and the 8 gun. Really hitting the hell out of it. I'm seeing 1 shot at least coming off from the starboard side of that Jackal shot. Maybe 2. So it still has some cannons to work with. As we're seeing now, the flagship is turning itself into rotation. Watch this broadside, folks, because it's going to be pretty brutal, and it's going to spell the end for this 8 gun. And here it comes, folks. Here is the finishing maneuver of this battle. The Jackals are going to try and get close. They're going to try and charge. Ooh, Sabo with a grape shot. Absolute slaughter. And here we go. This is it. Once those 13 gun guns target the 8 gun, it is going to be all she wrote for the Jackal's final remaining 8 gun. Those 13 gun cannons are absolute powerhouses, and they shred ships in minutes. And you are about to see it happen right now. And there she is, folks. A hard-won victory for the SCP-38s. Keep an eye on your screen to take a look at the score differences. Not all different, about a 10,000 point, 9,000 point difference here. a strong victory for the SCP-38, not an utterly decisive victory. They come to the victory battered, but probably pretty happy that things did not go worse for them because there were some situations where it really, really could have. I've kind of already talked about what I think my takeaway here is. The takeaway here is that the Jackals had a situation where they could have used what we call that death spiral to their advantage big time. And they unfortunately did not utilize it. Instead, they held back. They kept their distance from the enemy instead of charging in. It is an unusually timid play from what is often an extraordinarily aggressive team, and I intend to ask them why they decided there that they did not want to charge while the charging was good, while the wind was good behind them. As for the SCP-38s, they played a solid game, but I am also surprised to see that they did end up dead against the wind in a situation where the enemy could have gotten around behind them. That said, the enemy did not press that advantage, and from that point on, the SCP had they dictated the pace of the battle. You know what? Actually, I won't say that. I will say that the Jackals dictated the pace of the battle because they did a lot of running towards the end. And so they got to choose where the battle would be, and they chose really maybe one of the worst places for them because the wind was so bad for them in that situation. That said, we have a lot to hear from the admirals, and we will absolutely ask them as they pile in here and as we get to talk to them. Let's see now if we have any admirals here yet. I'm not seeing anybody. They have not joined our green room yet, but we'll get them in here as soon as we can. I think, what does this mean for the league? I think what it means is that the SCP-38s are now technically second place. I think the if I'm gonna go look back at the leaderboard in my host information here, we do have. So let's take a look. So the difference between the Krakens and the SCP-38's point difference is like 2,000 to 3,000 points. It's very small. So now that the SCP are at a 5-2 record, with the 10,000 points that they just got over the Jackals, they will hold second place. That is extraordinarily impressive for this team. It is the first time they have cracked that second place. It is in the hands of the Krakens whether or not they keep that second place. So the SCP may find themselves getting bumped back down to third place the next time the Krakens have a strong victory. But for right now, the SCP can say, we and the Krakens, we are at parity here. We are a team that absolutely deserves to challenge the Krakens and deserves to challenge the Leviathans in the finals. And if they do that, they have every shot of winning the final championship in this game. All right, we do have Muffin Top Scout here. I'm looking to see if I see anybody else, but we'll talk to Muffin first. Muffin, are you here with me? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Hey, welcome and congratulations. How are you feeling?
Overall, pretty good. Funnily enough, this fight had me really second guessing myself before the match because the Jackals, they're a wild card. I didn't really know how they were going to play. So it was a lot
Yeah.
of, oh, they're doing this. I think this is what they're going to do. Trying to plan it out, but then eventually coming up with a plan and adapting on the spot as we kind of see what they do.
I think for me, the crux of the battle where you had the most chance of losing this thing was when you guys, so you kind of had a death spiral in the middle of this battle. Do you recall that moment where, you basically your fleet was against the wind and
Yep.
their fleet kind of had the wind as you were circling around each other? Do you remember that moment?
Yep, it was a little concerning.
They didn't press the offense. They didn't really try in any way to cut around behind you in that. I think that would have been, if there was a win condition for that, would have been that moment. Tell me a little bit about how we got to that point, what you were feeling as you saw that attack kind of not come for the rear of your line, and then take us through the aftermath of that battle where they went fleeing towards the wall and you trapped them between two halves of your fleet and really closed the vice on them. Tell me a little bit about from that moment onwards.
Yeah, so when I felt like a spiral was going to happen, and I really wanted to dive onto their 13, but he was it was just not in a position where I could get on them. So I was telling my crews, okay, front eights, or I gave everyone the primary target of the rear ship of their line and just focus it down, ignore the 13 because it's being weird, but ignore their 13, focus fire on the rear 8, and we'll see what we can do from there. And I told my front ships to try to increase their turn while my back ships try to stay with the 13 a little bit, kind of playing the whole if they're going to try to dive on my rear ships, then I can hopefully turn and adjust, and I would have plenty of ships to basically protect my 13. So that was the thought process, and that's what it seemed to pay off when they started to they kind of turned away. So at that point, I was still thinking, okay, at any time, I think they're going to turn onto my 13 because he's basically stuck with the wind.
Yes.
So I left a couple of my 8s with them because I was still thinking, maybe set up an opportunity somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my other 2, hey, push forward, head towards them, keep heading towards them, keep pecking away at the rear of their line because that was pretty much the primary call for that. And I saw that they were starting to turn towards the podium. And so at that point, I told the guys, all right, everyone, full charge towards them. My 2 lead 8s, or eventually 3 lead 8s, like cut in front of them if you can, and just fight it out. I want you to block them at the podium, either force them into the corner there, or just block them. And, Sabo, he did that quite well. And then Fishy here as well is really reliable in maneuvering and, willing to take shots from an entire fleet, but keep his ship in position and to keep hitting the enemy. And then I told my 13, Mika brought it up actually, is like, hey, I can move behind the enemy line and hit them from the rear. And Amit didn't have any cannons, or he had fewer cannons on that side as well. So that's why he went with them. And then it just turned into, okay, focus them down or get into position, focus down one ship at a time. Oh, hey, the 13 is now in position. So ignore that 8, bring down the 13, and then just keep fighting it out. And I kept moving people to my 8s that were getting boarded to do counterboarding. It seemed like with Lucius's ship and that 8 there for the longest time was a really fun boarding fight.
Yeah. And they won it. It looks like they kind of won it. I mean, the other ship ended up completely demasted.
Yes, we did win it. We did win out, and then eventually we were able to sink it. I was yelling at them to just have the carpenters just whack the ship, okay? If there's nothing else to hit, just hop on the ship and just start whacking it. Just bring it down. So,
Beautiful.
But, Fishy here as well, doing quite well as one of my captains. As I said, reliable. What do you think, Fishy, when the enemy fleet was focusing on you?
I mean, I didn't think much of it other than again from the 13 gun. That was my main goal, and figured I'd lose a couple guns, but ended up losing all of them, but it was all right.
It really created a circumstance in which the opposing fleet was just, you locked jaws on them, like watching a wolf bite down from 2 sides of its jaw. And so, yeah, you were going to lose some stuff on, your, it's kind of like a hammer and anvil situation. Well, keep using more metaphors here. And you guys were sort of the anvil. You were going to take the damage. You were going to get ships charging into you as they tried to escape, or enemies were going to be firing into you. But it gave your 13 gun almost completely free range to just fire into that mess and do the business that 13 guns are so great at, which is just tremendous HP damage. So a very valiant move from your part, and we loved watching it. And we really did notice the bravery there and the the sort of daring to say, yeah, we're gonna stick you in this corner, and that's where you're gonna stay until this battle's over. And it worked great for you.
And I wanted to make sure that we didn't leave an impression of, oh, we don't want to lose ships. We don't want to risk losing ships,
Yeah.
Because the past 2 fights have shown that where we didn't lose a ship. So I just wanted to leave it clear that if you're going to give us that opportunity, we may lose a ship or 2, but we're going to maximize on it.
Well, something that I've been thinking about is we are, I think now, 8 matches away from the finals. This is the home stretch here. And you are, I think, very firmly in second or third place at this point, which means you're going to be in the top bracket finals, unless anything can happen in this league. But let's say that is where you end up. You are going to be fighting teams where there's not going to be a situation where you're going to be able to keep all your ships. Getting messy, using stratagems, sacrificing ships for strategic overall benefit. That's the direction that you guys are going to have to go to beat these incredible teams that you're going to be fighting. So to see this from you guys, it really shows me that you guys are ready for the very rough battles that you have ahead of you, and puts you in a position where, you guys are just as likely to be the champions of this league as any of the other two teams in the top half. And it's been amazing seeing your guys' team grow. It's been spectacular. I mean, from the early days where you guys were to the professional level that you guys have a fleet organization and maneuvering now, it's been quite something to see. So congratulations to you on a really great battle and a really great season overall that I've enjoyed watching.
Thank you for that. And to Charney and Kazab, it was a great game. You guys made me work hard today, sweating a lot.
Yeah, and let's move over to
Thank
these
you.
guys now. We have Charney, we have Ketsub, we have, I think that's it. That's who we have. Guys, you did make the SCP-38s fight like mad to get this. Every ship was battered by the end of this. But the question that I have for you, I really want to focus in on one part of the battle. It's the part that I felt is your biggest missed opportunity. And it was when you and they were spiraling around each other and you had the wind and they did not. Tell me, what was the decision-making process at that point? Why did you guys not go for the rear of their line while you had the wind and hit hard? It seemed like you were interested in keeping your distance. Why keep your distance? Tell me about that decision.
Mam tłumaczyć?
Znaczy zrozumiałem tylko w którym momencie, jak już mieliśmy wiatr, czy jak skręcaliśmy na wiatr?
Jak skręcaliśmy z wiatrem.
Samo tak wyszło.
Początkowym manewr. Okay. So it just happened because... Dlaczego w zasadzie?
No Palasion za bardzo do przodu wyrwał i za bardzo się skupiłem, żeby 13 miała przestrzeń do strzelania. I w pewnym momencie już było za późno, żeby dystans zmniejszyć, po prostu dlatego uciekliśmy.
Okay, so one of our ships got, a bit too far from the rest of the fleet, and after that, Charney Lis tried to give the 13 gunner, the space to shoot at the enemy, and the decision was that because of this one mistake, right, and we decided that it was better to, as you said, run away, but to cut them off from the other side, because after that the situation was like they were going with the wind. We didn't lose our wind completely, but we've had the opportunity to cross their T. Is that the word?
Yes, cross the T, correct.
At the later part by the the wall of the Colosseum.
Yes,
and especially because their fleet was split into halves. So we tried to use this. Just our 13 gunner, the wind was a bit, the wind stuff was a bit too much, and even for the beginning maneuver, when we started to go for it was east, I think, and to get the wind, it was still a problem because we knew that the wind is going to be a big issue for us. And even at the beginning, when we tried to position our fleet so that the SCP are going to go against the wind towards our fleet, the wind just made it a bit almost impossible to position our 13 gunner properly.
It's funny because you actually, I mean, you guys ended up your opening move. I thought was amazing because you guys didn't just turn against the wind. You actually turned so far that you got the wind back. You passed being against the wind and you actually fled in a direction where you had not the best wind, but pretty good wind. And then you had yourself in a situation where you entered that spiral, the spinning around each other in the middle. And so, for me to see all that play out and your hard work at the beginning of the game, and then to see you guys not pounce on the enemy when you had the wind advantage, that was a surprise for me, I'll be honest. And then from there on out, the circle continued, right? The SCP came around and then they got the wind again after some time of not having it. And by that time, the moment had passed and then you guys went to the wall. So tell us a little bit about what was your strategy coming into this battle? Is this how you guys imagined this battle going? What did you think was going to happen as compared to what did happen?
No, only first move we planning, other, okay. We look what's doing enemy, and
so you were going to think, you were thinking about reacting, basically being reactive to the enemy.
Yes.
Yeah, understood. Okay. Well, I want to congratulate you guys on as you strong battle. Even when you guys lose, you always rough up the enemy very badly, and there's always masks that come down. Every battle you guys have masks somehow. So congratulations on the Beavers. I know you guys are naming yourself the Beavers next season, and I can't wait to see it. Is there anything else that you? Yes, it is your specialty. And, it's something I said on the stream, and I'll say it to you guys here while we're listening. I want to see you guys. This is my dream for you, is to see you guys create a strategy where ramming the enemy is the first thing you do, not the last. Or it's something that you are focusing on in the beginning of the battle, instead of doing it at the end when you've lost a ship and it's it seems like it's your emergency. When in doubt, when things get bad, charge the enemy and fight them. But by that time, sometimes the HP is not in your favor. I would love to see what would happen if you boarded the enemy while the HP was in your favor. That's what I hope most for your team, because I think you guys will perform some stunning maneuvers if you can focus on that.
So just gonna say that after the update, that is coming for the hopefully for the naval battles, we have some plans.
Good.
Just gonna say that.
I think next season is going to be your season, guys.
Give me good map.
Give you a good
number of islands, and I.
All right, very good. Well,
I love house. I love Iceland because this is house. I love this.
Yeah.
Boarding.
We hate open waters.
Yeah, I hate open waters. It's not the best.
Today, we have bad wind and open waters.
Not your perfect map, huh?
It's the worst map when I'm commanding.
You guys did a great job nonetheless, and we love having you here, and we love watching your battle. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to everybody involved. And Harper, if you're watching this, we wish you could have been with us today because we would have loved to talk a little bit with you about the upcoming naval expansion. We'll get you on a future broadcast. And all of you listeners, we will talk to an AGS representative in the flesh. We will get them here, and so that they can tell you a little bit more about what to expect from the expansion that is coming by the end of this year. And I can say very, very happily that it is going to change this game, fundamentally change this game. And all those changes are going to be a big part of what the next season of the NSL is going to look like. And obviously, we have some people who are very excited about it. So, again, thank you to all of our admirals. I'd love to thank our director today. I'd love to thank all of our correspondents. I would love to thank all of the people who sorted out the mercenaries, everybody who is working so hard to put this broadcast together and who does so every week. You guys are the unsung heroes of the NSL, just as heroic as all these admirals and officers and crewmen. because you put this out, a great show every week, and we're so very grateful for you. And we are even more grateful for all of you who are watching this stream, because you are the folks that we do this all for, and we hope that you enjoy it. We will see you again next week. Let me see if I have a next week. RBF versus KRN. The next week, RBF versus KRN, the Royal Black Fleets, the Krakens are going to have their opportunity to put themselves back into second place on the leaderboard, and the Royal Black Fleets are going to have their opportunity to slay a Kraken. Let's see how it plays out next week on the NSL. It has been my pleasure hosting for you this week. I am Lamerck. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next time.